Games, board games, board games. We might be talking about board games, but we're not gonna shout. I am here with Ori Kagan. That's the person that I just mentioned. And we'll talk about videos. We probably won't talk about our noses, but that's not besides the point. Board games. And now it's going to be a joint discussion.
Yeah,
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good
very
whatever it is, wherever you
important.
are. 10 a.m.ish UK time for Bezzy Beats and Board Game Blether, episode 829, meeting Ori Kagan. Thank you for joining me, and I'm looking forward to chatting.
I was this close into breaking into beatboxing, which I used to do as a youth, but I haven't done for so long. So in the back of my mind is it was like, do it, but you haven't done it for so long, you don't know if you're still good.
You
So
know, the real issue with kind of when people try to combine forces to make even better music is because of the lag, because of the internet, it can get a little bit confusing. Because then you try to hit the beat, and then or I might try to hit the beats of you, and then it'll actually sound like it's half a second too late because of the lag, and then we'll all get confused. But no,
good thing
I
you're
would actually
frustrating.
now. I feel like you have to give us a good 10 couple of bars of beatboxing because of mentioning it.
Oh, Baz, you're putting me on the spot, but this is a good way
I
to start.
am.
So get the microphone close.
Very
Yes.
nice. That is super awesome. I think that's the first time out of like 800 odd shows, that's the first time I've ever had someone come on and actually do beatboxing. So thank you
Uh,
very much.
you're
Um,
welcome.
look, we had a chat. I think it might have been board game design lab or some group, and I was like, oh, this is a cool person. Let's get to know them. And that's what this show is all about. So what's going to happen is today we're going to chat about who you are, early memories, later stuff, games, podcasts, what's your other passions are, maybe a bit about Star Wars. But we'll carry on. Let's talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights. Recent highlights. What have you been up to in the past few days? Let us know. Ori.
Wow. Okay. Past few days have been packed with stuff. Um,
Awesome.
well, there's two things which I mainly work on, and that's in my business and on my business. It's two things, and I'm in the process of moving away from working in the business and creating videos. I do board game videos and animations myself, to working on the business and seeing where can I expand it while giving the actual work to other subcontractors.
Mm.
So it's an interesting combination between the two. Uh,
So you are talking about one side is the actual crafting of these videos and making that stuff, and then the other side is getting the work and doing that relationships and managing your team. Is that right?
mhm. And then everything else, there you said business development, you've said uh, um, relationships and getting more clients, but also just finding what else I can contribute to the board game community, where it be like asset kits for people to create their own stuff, workshops, content, and something like that. Very, very hard to keep it.
Like we're talking really high level. Let's get specific. Let's just talk
Okay.
yesterday. Okay. Oh, I mean, I know Sunday's just one day out of the week, but what was Sunday like for Ori Kagan? Sunday, the what date was that?
Well,
Sunday, the 27th of November, 2022.
Sunday, you can actually see the fruits of the Sunday behind me because I basically went shopping and I got the lights here behind me, and another light here, and I tried crafting my new background. I put the board games in a specific order which I liked, new favorites on top, and we all have our favorites, so it changes up. And I'm getting ready for a workshop I'm giving yesterday about storytelling and marketing. So I'm doing all I can to avoid actually creating the slideshow. I created a trailer.
You're a procrastinator, then.
Like crazy, but I'll get to it. I know what I want to do, and it's I'm really excited for it. It's definitely a first time for me where I'm just sort of opening up about how I think about stories and the way I give them, basically.
Sorry, just to clarify, you said you're giving this workshop yesterday, but I assume you misspoke.
Tomorrow. That's tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes. It's tomorrow.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I thought you were saying, oh yeah, I was getting ready for something that I'm doing yesterday. I thought maybe you had to do it late at night. I don't know. But no, I'm the same way. Like, yeah, hopefully it's like doing those little things, and hopefully those can line you up, even though you might be scared of this big thing. And sometimes I get really fearful of, oh, this is a big email that I have to write. This is really meaningful. Oh, I've got to do these rules. Oh, and it sounds like you've got a little bit of that yourself. And how do you get over that? Do you get over that, or do you always just end up doing everything last minute?
I've been open about this more and more, that I'm actually a total introvert. Like, I have really hard time getting myself out there, mingling and talking to people, and really expressing what I feel, think, and want to do. And I've been working through that for a very long time, and on purpose putting myself in positions which I might be uncomfortable with, which could be talking to clients, reaching out, cold reaching out, and just going to events and conventions and giving talks in front of a lot of people. And it's just, I find, from my self-discovery with myself, that it's just that before time that's hard for me. The moment I'm on stage, the moment I'm actually talking to the person and it's like a real human being, that sort of fades away, and I feel comfortable. So it's interesting. And then after the event or after the meeting, I have no energy left. It completely takes all my energy, but in a good way. It's just, it takes a lot, but I enjoy it. It's still fun. So, getting back from a 2-hour call with friends of mine where we even play board games online or something like that, afterwards I'll be like, I need to recharge my social battery. So I don't know. Do you relate to that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I have read stuff by people who are introverts. I don't relate to it myself at all. But what I'm hearing is that maybe, I don't know if this, was different, but maybe you had to psych yourself up a wee bit to come on here. But now that we're actually doing it, you're like, okay, this is okay. What's afterwards? Like the whole, oh no, I've got no energy. I really hope that you're still able to do your stuff and I'm not draining you now.
Oh, for sure. I have plenty of things to get me going, and that's definitely one of the reasons I decided to move away from doing everything myself and to having more team members, is for that support. So it's not, I don't need to rely only on myself, because like you said, what happens if I have a meeting in the morning and that's it the whole day? I just can't do anything. So luckily, I'm not doing this alone anymore, and I have a few wonderful people working with me, and it's just a joy, because some of them, that was an interesting thing. I think every creative person at a certain point realizes he gets to a limit of what his craft can do. And I think the natural state of, or her, please call me out, or her. So, and they naturally come to the state where they need to reach out to someone even better than them. And that, there's a lot of ego problems there. There's a lot of, what, I need to craft everything myself, this is my baby, or something like that. And then suddenly you let go, and then it becomes even better. It becomes even grander, and you can achieve more things, more ambitious things that you thought of. And I think this could be for every creative project. It could be for a board game, even. You take it to a certain point,
Well,
and then
absolutely. I think that everything is benefited by other people. And a quick hello to Dina, who seems super excited to see you here, despite having 3 hours of sleep. And
it's
yes,
my fault.
also a quick morning to Elaine. And yeah, I hope I do a decent job at celebrating those people who helped, like, for a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after some mixed noises, like all the Instagram stuff that Dina did, but also, Chris, who helped me so much in the past, Jack, who's made some of the recent stuff prettier, like all of these things. So there's so much going on to celebrate. And did you have something that you want to show right now, Ori?
Yeah, I want to show my very proud copy of Whimsical Creatures. Okay, so we printed and play this. This has gone to the table so many times. We bring it everywhere we go because I put it in just this tiny box. And we are enjoying it so much. My kids love it. They love teaching it themselves. And I have two kids, a 5-year-old and a 4-year-old. And they know how to teach the game themselves. And not only that, they created other games within this game. So it's a game that keeps on giving, and I really wanted to thank you for.
Oh, that's absolutely delightful to hear. I would love to hear about their other games and maybe can share them with some of the other people. But yes, also part of me is thinking, well, I bet to reduce the age that I said, if 5 and 4-year-olds are able to play it themselves. Dina says, we play Snap with creatures with similar features. So how does that work? Is that like number of eyes and number of mouths and stuff like that? Because that could totally work. I mean, I guess you'd need to have a good sense of what's going on. But that's...
Well,
Sorry, on you go.
We play a version where we spread out like a grid of 5 by 5 so there's 25 creatures. And then one player picks one but doesn't tell anyone else. And the rest need to ask questions to sort of narrow it down so they can get it. So it's similar to Guess Who, but just with these cool monsters, and I hate Guess Who. So this is it fixes that game.
Amazing. And so it might like how many eyes does it have, or do they have to be yes or no questions?
They have to be yes or no questions, and the challenge for kids is how to ask the questions which will eliminate the most monsters. So there is also an element where they need to think. So it's like, okay, I see that most of the monsters, have a tongue out. So let's ask about that. And I see some of them have fur. So let's ask about that. And then slowly it narrows down till they get to, and they need to get it in 7 questions, but they usually get it before that. And yeah, that's a lot of fun.
So it's a one versus many game sort of, or one person's the kind of game master, everyone else is trying to play cooperatively.
You know what's the hardest part for them? Not pointing at the creature they chose when they're trying to think about it. Because they're saying, look at it, think about it, and just don't tell. And they're like, no, don't point. Just think about it. Okay. So we all go out of the room, and then we're like, okay, have you chosen? Yeah. They point again. No.
That's brilliant. I think that there's definitely a lot of lessons to learn there about self-control and being aware of what your body's doing. It's almost like not like social deduction where you're incentivized to be secret, but for sure, for kids, I always say before you reveal the card, like before you look at the card to see yourself, everyone else should close their eyes, because then that person is free to look very carefully. Because as an adult, you can sort of look at all of them so no one knows what you're looking at. But for a smaller child, you're going to go, and obviously that kind of gives the game away of which one you're going to make the noise of.
Exactly.
Talking about games, I had a lovely day yesterday playing a couple of games with Jonathan Brieger. Firstly, I played this game from 2011. I don't know if you've heard of Mammoth.
Mammoth. No, I have not. I've seen that cover, I think, but I've never
So
looked into
this is um, it's a really interesting take on I Split You Choose. It's
it.
one of those games where you start reading the rules and you're like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And then you get to the end of the section and you're like, ah, it's kind of like poker, where, you know, that element of if you weren't sure what was going on, you just wouldn't understand the rules if you were reading them normally.
Mhm.
So in Mammoth, you've got a whole bunch of stuff in the middle, and you're allowed to either take as many as you want from the middle, or you're allowed to take everything from one other player, but when you take from another player, you've got to put at least one back into the middle. If you don't have anything in front of you, then you get to go again. So it keeps going round until everyone has something, and that's the key part. So when you're taking something, well, if someone takes from you, then that means that they felt like your stuff minus something is still worth having. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
you've kind of overshot, not just by half a tile, but by at least one tile.
that's
And so
interesting.
then there's also there's different scoring systems. And I think it's a really nice system. I would like to explore it myself potentially. It feels like there's a lot of different ways that everything scores. Some people online, because I checked Boards Game Geek after I'd played it and enjoyed it, um, people compared it to Ra, where all the different things score in different ways. Hey, this thing scores the majority. This thing scores 2 points per each thing. This thing gives you bonus cards, which give you special effects. And that's lovely, but it does simultaneously feel like, yeah, it doesn't. I don't know. I would like it to almost lean more into the chaos of this whole divvying up mechanism. But there's something really fascinating here, and I'm really excited to play it with 3 players. I think is going to be the optimal. That's just because 2 players, you've got to have a special rule, and then 3 players, yeah, it's just all about okay, what does that person want? What? And I'm really keen to play it with more.
Can I
Um,
ask a question about that?
absolutely.
How does the theme connect to the theme?
Not really. Um, so you're collecting saber-tooth rabbits and saber-tooth ducks. It's actually ridiculous. So there's literally a picture of a duck with saber-tooths. If I can, let's see if I can get one of them out. And it's not something that anyone should be taking too seriously. So here's
Okay.
a little duck, if you can see that.
Oh, precious.
And it's got saber-tooth. Um, maybe that kind of is
Oh,
visible. And then you've got a little saber-tooth rabbit. So it's like these weird modern animals just with 2 giant teeth coming out. And you're collecting axe tokens and fur and stuff, but it could be anything. Honestly, it's completely redundant. The other things that we did play a game about selecting 7 cards, speedily searching for synergies, the first edition, which I'm still doing a little bit of work tweaking the numbers, but I think it just has to get out there. And yeah, it's not the second edition isn't going to be perfect still, but Jonathan Brieger was like, "Yeah, I'm really enjoying this." So, because our friend gave a copy, and what we also played was Jonathan Brieger's prototype, which is I think Summer Blades, which is a game where enemies become lovers potentially. So you're
oh,
playing with 2 people in fictional Italy. You're dueling. But then as time goes on, you might win, but each time you draw, you think, oh, we are perfectly matched. Are we a match? And then
I
this
love
little
this.
counter turns you into friends, at which point the city doesn't trust you. And then one more time, and you become lovers, at which point it suddenly becomes a cooperative game. And then it's you against the society, which is trying to break you two apart. And then you can either win as one of the characters, win as the other character, win as lovers, or you can lose as lovers where society tears you apart. So there's a really
Correct.
interesting thing. And this has been signed up with Pandasaurus, and
Ooh,
it's really something really nice going on here, and it was an absolutely delight.
that is a delightful pitch for a game. That
Mm-mm.
I'm going to be finding where I can follow this, and because you did the perfect example of what I'm hoping to talk about, which is like I can see myself playing this game. This is like one of my favorite tropes. Enemies turn to lovers in film and TV, and it just sounds fascinating. Yeah, can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah, because it's really fascinating what games can keep pushing, because we've got little bits of this in Fog of Love, but we can keep exploring this. And I think it's fantastic that until we've got at least 100 games of anything, like I would say it's still been underexplored. Like, how many things are there like this? But
Sorry,
the
sorry.
other one thing I will mention is Questable, which we also played, continuing to explore. We played that on hard mode. It went well. Let's crack on, because I'm aware that we've been chatting for a long time, and I want to ask you to share with us a brilliant thing. Brilliant thing. What's the little thing which is brilliant?
Brilliant thing. I don't.
Yes.
Could be anything.
Could be anything. Could be pillows. Could be ears. Could be moustaches.
Well, oh, I'll tell you what's brilliant. I started making fruit smoothies at home, and yeah, we got the lights. But I grew up. My dad used to make me these smoothies. He had this old machine where he put all the fruit, anything like bananas, apples, pears, and you smash them and then turn it into this sort of froth. And he used to give us, this is your vitamins, drink it every day. And it was just so good. Um, and this is the first time which I decided, okay, let's try to give this to my kids. And my kids can be a little bit picky eaters. So, but they do love, cold, sugary smoothies. So we called it warm smoothies because they're warm.
Hmm.
And they love it. And now I'm starting to experiment and trying, let's add blueberries, and now let's add pears and see oranges. Let's see what happens, and papaya maybe. We'll see. So I'm really into that right now, and I'm enjoying that.
So, firstly, can you give us the exact recipe for the last one that was enjoyed?
The last one, you say it, in English. You say a farciman. I don't know how do you say
Persimmon,
a
the
farciman.
yellow,
Yeah.
and
It's very
it's like
hard. Yeah.
yeah, like the outside. You really need to peel it. Although, like you
Mhm.
could eat the peel, but it's a bit.
Yeah. So I don't like that fruit specifically,
Okay.
but in a fruit shake is just very good. It adds a lot
Mm-mm.
of taste to it. So we tried banana, we tried a farsamon, and apples. This time we didn't do the oranges because the oranges gave it a little bit of this bitter aftertaste. So simple apples, bananas, and a farsamon, and that was fantastic.
I like it. And what I'm hearing really is that the brilliant thing is being able to create your own recipe, experimentation, learning the tastes, learning how things interact,
Yes.
and also just yeah, because of my clock, the comments haven't been working,
Oh,
alerting me to them. So I do massively apologize for. Dina just wants to say that for the Guess Who with the creatures, it would teach them to describe things. And yeah, absolutely, Queen Games has changed a lot. I think all companies have to change a lot with what they've got. And we've got,
of course, the duck.
and yeah,
Big
I
fans
think
of ducks here.
follow John Brieger, and John's the friend. I'm happy. But let's crack on with questionably quick questions is the next section. It's not an interrogation. It's just the questionably quick question section. Questionably quick question section. So, what was the last game you played for pleasure?
That was Wingspan with the European expansion. We really enjoyed that one. We love
Okay.
Wingspan, and the European expansion added just more funness.
So, no game is for everyone. Who would you recommend that to?
Ooh, anyone ready to take their to step up beyond quick and short games, who wants to try, well, what's his first, medium heavyweight game. It's not heavy, it's medium. But yeah, definitely recommend it to anyone that's looking for a little bit more of a challenge, basically.
That makes sense. Now, what is your first memory that you're willing to share?
My first memory ever of my whole life? Oof. I have a few key memories, but they're sometimes confused by things I actually saw as footage where people filmed me. But I'll give you the fun one where they actually filmed me do this, where I took these chain links that for kids that, for babies, and I sort of put them around here. And I took a broomstick and I was running around shouting, "Mumbo, mumbo, mumbo." I was just like, why am I doing this? Why am I shouting mumbo, mumbo? And it's because my older brother was obsessed with Rambo. And he kept playing Rambo with me, and I wanted to be Rambo, so I ran around saying mumbo, mumbo, mumbo. And that's
because you couldn't quite see or R's.
Or maybe I wanted to dance in Mambo number 5. I don't know.
What do you think is the best number? Do you have a favorite number?
3. It's always been like that. I have no idea why.
Books or podcasts?
Audiobooks.
Okay, and what was the last one you listened to?
Wow. Okay, I listened to like 5 at the same time, but the last one I listened to, which I talked to Dina about, was Stories That Stick by Kendra Hart. Excellent nonfiction book about how to tell stories with businesses. And yeah, I'm going to be drawing a lot from there.
Nice. So Kendra Hart.
Mm-hmm. And I highly recommend the audiobook because that's her narrating and telling her stories in the book. So the audiobook is much better than just the physical version, which is a weird exception here.
Because there's added content, or just because you hear it in the author's own voice?
You can hear it in the author's own voice. And she's a storyteller, so you can really hear how she drives the emotion in, and she really paints the picture, and it's some great experience. I really enjoyed every second of that.
Wow. And it sounds like, would you recommend that to everyone, or?
I think she has 2 books. One is like mainly focused for businesses, and the other one is more general. I haven't read the other one, but definitely check her out. Yeah.
And Dina wants to suggest Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. I would like to hear about your first game that you ever played. What can you remember?
I guess my first game was just playing cards and playing Go Fish with my grandmother. So.
And were you born in Israel?
I was born in Israel. My grandma that I was mentioning is from England, actually, from London.
Okay.
And just that's one of my earlier memories where she loved cards. She was a pretty avid bridge player. We could never understand bridge, but she played with us all these classic card games like Go Fish, Snap. So I remember that. If you want the answer of what's the first one I remember.
No, that is absolutely what I was looking for. And in another interview, you talked about getting into filmmaking, into making a Star Wars thing, putting on this suit. Sorry, I can't remember what kind of suit it was. And yeah, what happened to that film?
Okay, so I did some digging to figure out what happened to that film. Okay, to tell the story again, back as a kid, I'm a crazy Star Wars fanatic. My dad showed it to me on VCR, and that changed my life completely. And as I grew up, when I was around 14, I decided to, let's make a Star Wars fan film. I had my plastic lightsabers. And I had my Aikido gi. I used to practice Aikido, so I had the karate gi, so that was the closest thing I had. And me and my friend, we went to the backyard and we started, practicing these moves. and choreographing all this stuff and the motions and everything. And we practice and practice every day after school. I didn't have a camera back then, so I had to ask my friend's dad to come in, especially with a camera, no phones. So he brought his video camera and he said, I have about 40 minutes before I need to go. I'm like, okay. So suddenly I'm confronted with, wait, how do we even shoot this? I had no idea. So I was like, okay, we should have at least 3 angles. So let's do the whole thing 3 times, one from this side, one from this side, and one from the center. And we'll figure it out later. So he's like, okay, he filmed it. Then he gave us the CD with the footage, and we did the whole thing. And I remember it's just, we had to get it super, super right. We had all these cheesy moments, standing back to back in the grass. I remember also my gi was completely dirty afterwards with dirt and grass and everything. But I gave it my all. Need to sell the shot. And then we looked at the footage and we were like, oh my God, this isn't very good. But let's try doing something with that. And I started editing it. I did, I think, like a few, and I taught myself how to make the effects. I downloaded pirated version of After Effects. I figured out through tutorials how to make the lightsaber effect. And I made a few of them. They looked amazing, but I never actually finished it. And last weekend, I was at my parents' house. I looked for the footage, and it's nowhere to be seen. Because if I would have found it today, I would have definitely been all over it and try to finish that found film. But it was never finished.
Wow. I mean, and this was when you were 14.
Yes.
So, this would have been like a trip down memory lane saying, yes, I'm using After Effects to, but when I think about the 3 angles, I'm also thinking, well, if you switch from this angle to the one that was shot third, well, your Aikido gear would probably be a little bit dirtier. So it's like, hey, why is the gear getting dirtier and then cleaner randomly all throughout?
Well, since then, I decided I want to make movies. That's where it started, and I sort of realized, I could actually, that could be the answer to what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I haven't thought about that until then. I was just like, I could become a filmmaker. That exists, and my life path was suddenly much clearer. Got more complicated later. Can get into that, but that's where the dream started.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect place. Before we actually set aside the questionably quick questions, one last thing is, would you rather have a tiny meeple-sized duck, or would you rather have a duck-sized meeple?
I will go for the former, and that's actually might someday happen because I want to create some merch from my brand. And if I don't know if you've seen, my logo is literally this tiny duck, which I think you're referencing. So I am going to be creating all sort of stuff. So we'll see.
But yeah, to anyone watching, obviously, I'm going to wrap up in a wee bit, but feel free to comment, ask questions, follow, all that good stuff. That's why we do it live, and I appreciate those who've already been making themselves known. But if you want to lurk, that's also okay. And if you want to ask some questions after the fact, I try to reply to all the respectful comments and questions that I see, and I try to pass on everything to the people. So feel free to do it that way. But I'd like to talk about those early first days of what was the second thing you did? What was the third thing you did? At what point did you think, okay, I've got the skills now? Because there's a long distance between being 14 and then you went and then you saw everything going into the army and then all the office stuff that you said, okay, this is just not the life for me. I'm going to be a storyteller. And then actually realizing that. So tell us a little bit about that journey, please.
Okay, so you mentioned the army, which is sort of this thing everyone has to do when they're 18 in Israel. And it doesn't really get in the way. It's sort of just you pause your life, do your service, and then get back. But as I was doing it, just that dream was being strengthened and being idealized, and I'll just get out and I'll go to film school and I'll be watching movies all day, it'll be great. And then I did go to film school in Tel Aviv University, and there that dream started to chip a bit, because every time they gave us an assignment, I was just like, okay, let's make a crazy action scene where, boy meets girl, but they're actually secret agents and they start shooting each other. Just I don't care to make sense of it. It'll just be cool. And I show it, and the instructors are looking at me and like, okay, that was interesting. Next. And then for my final, I wanted to create this horror movie where we have all the Jewish prayer things. If you Google like a Jewish prayer tefillin, these straps, these black straps, I thought it would be cool if those straps came to life and started choking someone. And it's this monster story of, someone trying to struggle with his religion. And they're like,
sense.
We love that idea of a person struggling with his religion, but can we take out all the crazy horror stuff? And I was just like, but that's the whole fun. Why make a movie if you can't go crazy with it? So they never let me do that. And
so they wanted something a lot more muted, a lot more almost documentary style.
More
not quite documentary, but like logical
rounded
narrative. Whereas you just wanted to have these explosive effects, something that just evokes a mood rather than tells a simple story.
Yeah. And I had to finish my degree another way by editing someone else's movie. And I continued, I realized, okay, I'm good at editing. So, and I always have been. So let's try to become an editor. And I've seen what happens in the industry in Israel, and it wasn't good. I remember even they took us to a field trip to the TV studios, and we would walk around and we'll see all the people working there, dead in their eyes, black circles, holding their coffees. Is just like another day, and completely burned out. And I was just walking and seeing that. It felt like I was walking through a ghost town. And I was like, I'm never going to work in a place like this. This looks
without the passion.
horrible.
And you've talked about how when you work with someone, you don't want to be there just for making the video, as important. Well, even though that is clearly what you are basically doing, but you also want to be there to sort of support them in every aspect. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you make sure that you keep that passion alive?
So, yeah, that's. I could tell you a story about what happened in my first job to really sort of hone that in. I started my first job at this studio as an editor, and editing the same movie every day, which is an explainer video where you have someone in front of the screen, they're talking about their business, and text comes from the left and right. And I used to do the same thing every day. It was about quantity. Get 3 videos, 4 videos, get as many as possible. And me being me, I couldn't help myself. And, some videos, I just started going crazy with it, having animations come in and explosions, and then just like crazy editing. And maybe even if the guy just didn't know how to talk, I would completely erase him and replace him with an avatar. And rather than pushing back, they said, wow, this is great. Let's do more of these. And they created a whole new section for animation videos, which I was in charge of. And then they said, okay, how many of those can you make per day? I was just like, what, are you crazy? You know how much work that is? And he started grinding me, just getting and it got to such a bad point. The 9 to 5, man, or anyone, sorry. And it really got to a point where my kid was sick, and I asked to leave the job to go take care of them. And I had still a video due for that day. But it was just like, I need to take care of my kid. My wife was 8 months pregnant. And they said, well, what's going to be your next excuse? I was just like, what? And I could feel this heat boiling up in me, all this pent up rage and frustration of not being able to just express myself. And now you tell me I can't take care of my kid. And I sort of hulked out, if you could say that. I just sort of exploded and said exactly what I thought about them. And I'm so happy they did that. because it really literally propelled me out of that, being stuck in that loop of thinking, this is how you do it. You got to do that job. And I quit my job, started freelancing, and things became much better very, very quickly. Okay, suddenly I got interesting projects. People were coming to me because of my expertise. This still isn't board game related, but just being able to be out there as a freelancer slowly started, my mind was open to start connecting back to my passions. And I
Wow. And
started,
what were those initial clients? How did you go about finding them?
they came to me. I have no idea how. It's just word of mouth. People said, "Oh, I've worked with like one photographer, and he worked with someone else, and he called me up." It was literally just me putting myself out in the world, and they came to me. And these were not just one-off clients. These were clients which would give me a lot of work. They said, "Just tell us to stop. We love working with you." And I made twice the amount of money I made back in the day job, like the month after, and things were good. And then I was like, I want to make something really cool, really cool. What about board games? Is there any way I could make videos for board games? Because I used to back Kickstarters, and back then, this is 2015, so Kickstarter videos were still very early, very people just talking, help us make this game, please back us now, which has its place. But I was like, okay, we can do really cool things. You have all this amazing art and amazing characters and worlds. Why
Hmm.
why not use that? And I tried reaching out to one person to see if they will allow me to make a video for them. And I found my first Israeli client, and I did the video basically for free, for $100, something like that. And I
Can
gave
I
it away.
ask, when was this and what was the game?
This was 2015. This was a game called Dice and Dragons, very small game. It's a local publisher. I don't know if he's still active, but it was a very tiny game. It funded, and using that video, I managed to get my first US client. And that's where things started getting interesting, because my first US client was for a first time creator, Bold Moves Games. Um, and he created a game called Crossing Olympus that has Greek gods, and they're fighting each other, and they try to get to the gate. Great artwork, great visuals, cool story too, and a sort of abstracty game. And I went all out on that video, fire effects and explosions and everything. The video was amazing, and then the campaign failed.
Hmm. Hmm.
So there was like, oh man, all that work and it just for nothing. What can I do to help this further? I don't want to just make a cool video and then the campaign would flop. And I think that's where I started my journey into figuring out how to make not only a good, cool looking video, but the right video, but also being able to guide, especially first time creators, on the right path to achieving their dreams.
And where do you strike that balance? Because you've said, like, you are not a marketer. You're not trying to get into, general Kickstarter consultancy, but you are trying to offer a little bit more than just the video. So
Mhm.
where's the balance? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I started adding a discovery process at the beginning. Even before we talk script, we talk graphics, anything, we have a discovery process which we go through. Who are you? Who do you want to be? And who do you want your audience to be? Or who is your audience? Who's your target audience? And I'm saying, I need this for the video, but we're going to be doing this for everything that you do. Because the moment we do the research and we really think about stuff that sometimes nobody really stops to think about, you suddenly get all these insights. And that is something I did for my own business, because what happened? I got one more board game video, and then another, and then another. And slowly my freelancing job and my board game business, they started, ramping up more and more projects. And I remember this day, I can't forget that it was during COVID, and I realized I gonna have to choose. Either go with my freelance stuff, which is, just never ending projects, high paying,
Hmm.
safe, or closing that tab and just focusing on board games.
Which is also freelance stuff.
it's also freelance, but it's business development because I'm working with the clients. With the freelance stuff, I was working with as a subcontractor. So
Mm-mm.
they were dealing with the clients. I didn't need to have to do marketing. I didn't have to
But you've
do
also
business.
worked with some pretty big names. I mean, when you're working with Wise Wizards or someone who's making a board game version of a video game thing, like presumably you're not really doing the same amounts of business development for them.
I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for myself.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I need to build as Kagan Productions. Basically, I need to build myself as a brand and do my own marketing to get bigger leads and making sure my rates are at a certain point where it sustains the business. And now I need to pay other people. That comes later. It's this whole headache which most people aren't willing to do, and they would rather just do the work and not worry about clients. Not worry. What happens if you have a client which is giving too many revisions? What happens if there's a client which is not pleased? Which thankfully, the board game industry is full of amazing, kind people and the best clients I could ever hope for. It's just amazing.
I think that's a really nice place to start wrapping it up.
I
And
could go on forever.
no, it's lovely. And, I'm so glad that, firstly, that we made this a two-parter. And you can understand why I encourage everyone to come on at least 2 times. And honestly, I can see that we could have so many great conversations. Before Zena says you could go on forever. I just want to say on the homepage, where if you scroll down, there is this lovely show reel, which
Ooh.
I guess really shows what you're trying to do, right? And all of this work was done by Kagan Productions in 2022. Is that correct?
Yes, there's a lot of stuff that's going to go in the new one. I don't even know how I'm going to be able to cram all the new stuff into it.
It's amazing to see the breadth of stuff, and when for sure looking at like the Nut Hunt video where it's like tells a really interesting narrative, all of these things are, certainly of the level where I could imagine them being like on TV in the old days when TV was really a thing. I mean, now we don't really have broadcast. Well, yeah, broadcast TV seems so old. Like I've not watched broadcast TV for so long.
Just for the World Cup. I don't watch it personally.
By the way, these bottles, was that presumably that wasn't board game? That was like you're still those bottles.
That is a board game. It's called Top Pop by Talon Strikes, and that is a pretty awesome game which did not get the love it needed to get. It deserved to get so much more. It is just such a cute game, and we went really crazy with the video.
Okay, I really don't know that one. And Dina, I'm just like curious if a lot of. So yeah, I guess Dina brought you a lot of clients recently as well.
Vice versa, both ways. We help each other all the time. That's another note about the community. I always look to meet new people, to just make sure if I have a client that comes in and he needs something, I want to be able to point him in the right direction. So it's either pointing to Dina or pointing to someone that can help him with art or something like that.
Or them.
Or thank you for saying keep saying that. Okay, that's important.
Thank you for correcting yourself. But let's get to the end, and please, I've asked you a lot of things. Now, what would you like to hear from me? What would you like to ask me? Potentially ask anyone else here. Question of the day. Question of the day. Here's a little question before we go on our way.
When is the second edition of Monsters coming? And Whimsical Monsters?
There's already a game about cute comical creatures and trying to identify them after sonic noises. That already exists.
Oh, so yeah.
Have you not seen it?
Have I not? I don't think so. I do follow your stuff. So is that basically the second edition of Whimsical Monsters?
Yeah, well, we whimsical creatures. So
Creatures.
I mean,
sorry.
You can sort
Yep.
of see some of the things. So
Yeah,
this
I
came
remember
about
this.
because someone on Board Game Geek said, "Oh, I like this game, but the creatures look a bit creepy for my liking." And I was like, "Well, if one person says it, presumably there's other people who feel the same way, and I know that some people like it, but it's not for everyone." And I did do the cute comical creatures, and I do think that this is an easier game because
Mhm.
I understood the noise making process more. So I was able to think more about what shapes of mouths and what types of mouths would elicit different noises, if you know what I mean. So, whereas the first thing, I was just focusing on making the creatures look different.
Mhm.
Um, there's a lot of stuff there that, sure, it's fun to see, like the number of eyes or whether it's well, the robotic ones probably influence your noise a lot more. But whether it's furry or scaly probably doesn't influence it that much. And it's really about this area and the big body
Mm.
and the emotion. And so those are the things that I focused on a lot more. And yeah, that's
How can I
a
get
bit.
this? Because that
Pardon?
sounds. How can we get this now?
You can actually buy it from my shop. And if
Doing
I
that.
go to stuffbybez.bigcartel.com, and I currently have a special deal. So if you buy a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify the mothers makes noises, it's not part of the deal because that's sold from Poland. So that's being shipped from elsewhere. But anything else, if you get free games, any different games, you'll get a freebie. And the freebie is a copy of In a Bind Junior, which is a simpler version of the game that eventually became Yogi. And so your free games you could get, yeah, that one and two of there's so many new things that I've made this year, it's ridiculous. But yes,
Amazing.
that
Yeah,
is
I'm
some
buying
of
this
the
right now.
creatures that you can see. But yes,
Amazing. My kids will be ecstatic to play this. So I'm
awesome.
definitely adding it to my cart right now.
I will share that in the comments. And want to confirm, yes, both ways, all the time. We recommend each other. And sometimes I send them to Ori and he sends them back. Um, I think Dina wants to know if I'm wearing pajama bottoms today. No, I have already been out. Are you wearing pajama bottoms today, Ori?
Okay, we're getting embarrassing. Yes, I am, and I've been out, so I've been wearing my peaches out.
That's fair. That's okay. Um, I've and yes, I will not. You'll have to ask me the other questions another day, but you can get probably some idea by what reading through the Twitter. But I do have many bottles of tomato juice. Over to what are you up to? You can share, Botany, if you want to. What are you up to? Personally, I'm going to have a friend. I try to take Monday off, kind of. I'm going to be playing Bring Out Your Dead, which is a game I've never played before. I'm
Mm.
excited to see what it's like. Having my lovely friend Kerry over in half an hour ish and play a game, hang around, chat, get myself outside again. In
Oh,
the evening, if I feel up to it, I will go out dancing. If I don't feel up to it, I
yay.
will allow myself to just, do some reading or whatever needs to be done. There is work, but on Mondays, I try to say, I don't have to do anything. But yeah, I am just conscious that Dragon Meets is just a few days away. Someone's coming over, and I have a lot of tidying up and preparation to do for that and mailing lists. But to some extent, you can always say, well, it can wait until tomorrow because we do need some time off as well. What are
Yes,
you up
that's
to,
awesome.
Ori?
Well, I'm planning on trying out Above and Below. That's another recent board
Ooh,
game which we haven't played yet. I just finished reading the rules, and I want to get that to the table and really see how that is, because that will be the first time I'm bringing my wife Lenana. I'm bringing her into a game that involves narrative. She really
ooh.
likes the wingspans. She loves the splendors, the games that are very abstract, uh, even though they do have a theme. But this game, Above and Below, has those little story bits. So step by step, we'll see.
That sounds fantastic. And I hope what to everyone else out there, I hope you manage to do something that sounds that makes you smile. Dina wants to share that Dina does have jeans on, and we'll see. I've got some meeting with Mailer Games later today, and I'm going to sew a cat's bed with my kid before that. And so at this point, I will recap and wrap up before we finish up. We talked about a good amount today. We started off with a bit of beatboxing, which was delightful. We talked about all the things that you've got to do with your business, not just doing the work, but also the stuff surrounding it, keeping it going, making people aware of it, because it's not just enough, like for myself, same as you, it's not enough to make the videos and make the games. You've also got to, tell people about this stuff. Like the fact that you were curious about a game about comical creatures and trying to identify the monsters makes noises, and you weren't aware of it, shows that maybe my marketing needs to be better. But that's a kind
Or
of.
that my memory is horrible. That could be either way.
I need to send out more mailing lists, probably. We talked about a workshop that you're preparing for, working with others. We talked about Mammoth and what's the enemies to lovers as a theme with Summer Blades, John Brieger's game. We talked about vitamins, making recipes, putting different foods together. And the persimmon is also known as the Shannon fruit, depending on whether you're American or European. Bananas and apples. We talked about Lovely Wingspan, audiobooks, Stories That Stick by Kendra Hart, starting off life with Goldfish and Snap, being played with your grandmother, connecting with those English roots. We talked about making that video in your Akita uniform for Star Wars and having the people filming it and then realize maybe it got too much work, maybe it just other stuff came up, but we can't quite remember. But even though that was never finished, it sparked the love for it. And that went on to dictating what you chose to do at Tel Aviv University, but then being scared off by the soulless eyes and your first job, going to go freelance, then eventually in 2015, I mean, it's been 7 years. I mean, to be fair, that is, when I released my first game. So we're a couple kinds of
Wow.
similar paths, but you've been a lot more successful, if I may say so. But then having all these amazing clients and working with so many people and this amazing, I don't know if I can, I'll replay it. Like all the amazing work that you've done in the last year, it's just fantastic to see. Congratulations. And if you want to check me out, obviously I am Stuff by Bez in all of the places. And if you want to check out Ori, then where would you like to be found?
If you want to just chat, whatever, Facebook is where I'm always at. Just Ori Kagan, my name. If you want something business related, the best thing is you can also chat with me. That does it. But if you want to look at the stuff, that's kaganproductions.com. And if you're interested in tools to help you create similar visuals to what I do, then I do have a store, which is you linked it below, Kagan Productions store. Whew, I just gotta say, you got me emotional before, so I'm still recovering that.
And you've got a special deal going on, which I guess is going to finish in a couple of days.
I drew that all the way to November 30th. Everything on my website is discounted. Yeah, the first time being on the other side of the Black Friday craziness. Interesting experience. We'll see.
Well, it's been an absolute delight. If you want to check me out, like stuffbybez.com/streams, for some reason my Google Calendar isn't updating properly with the syncing with my personal calendar recently. But tomorrow we are having Ori Kagan back, which is, I'm really excited to chat a little bit more about videos. And I think I almost feel like we should just go into what it's like to set up this business and start working with other people, which would be, and picking those you work with, if you're up for that conversation.
Yeah, I'm totally down for that.
Fantastic. Wednesday, I'm going to have Alan Paul back on. We will be chatting about, we're going to continue discussing every type of mechanism in the world.
I
and
worked
we're
with
now
him.
talking about a different type of auctions. Thursday, not got any plans. I might do a little pre-Dragon Meet thing, something a little bit self-promotional, maybe talk about some games. And then on Friday, Saturday, I will actually be at Dragon Meet. So I try to do a very quick, like 5 minutes. Hey, I'm here. It's technically a show, but just see everything. So that will be me filming from Dragon Meet. Yeah,
Amazing.
I want to say, please share, spread the word, and thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for all the lovely people. Thank you, Dina, and everyone else for being here. It is fun. And most importantly, thank you to Ori Kagan. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Bez. It's been a pleasure. I mean, I had a lot of fun, and this was really meaningful for me. So,
Oh, wow.
thank you.
Well, the only thing left to say is, as always, bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Do, 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 do. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.